The town of Kent Cliffs was never the same after that fateful New Year's Eve in 1982. People who were present on that night could not explain what they had seen, and those who missed it could not believe the stories they heard. There was an unusual aircraft in the sky, as large as a commercial jet but with a V shape, moving slowly and making no sound. It was a sight that would kick off a wave of UFO sightings that would go on for years to come. Among those who saw the craft was a man named Richard, a local mechanic who had been out with his friends to celebrate the new year. As they drove through the dark country roads, they suddenly saw the object in the sky. They pulled over and got out of their car to get a better look. The ship seemed to be hovering in the air, as if waiting for something. Richard was the first to notice that there were no stars in the sky. It was as if the object was blocking out the entire sky, and no other light could penetrate its surface. He looked at his friends, who were equally stunned. They stood there for what seemed like hours, just staring at the craft. Suddenly, there was a flash of light, and the craft was gone. They returned to town and reported what they had seen to the local authorities. At first, they were laughed at and dismissed as drunkards. But as more and more reports came in from other people who had seen the same thing, the authorities started to take notice. The sightings continued for months, and people from all walks of life came forward to report what they had seen. There were doctors, scientists, and meteorologists who had all witnessed the same thing. They described the craft as a V-shaped object, as large as a football field, with bright lights and no sound. One of those who came forward was Philip Imbrogno, an author who had been investigating UFO sightings for years. He was intrigued by the reports from Kent Cliffs and decided to investigate the area himself. What he found was shocking. Not only were there strange craft in the sky, but there were also bizarre sounds coming from somewhere deep below ground. Imbrogno talked to the locals and heard stories about entrances to vast underground caverns, or even secret bases. Some even claimed that there was a military/alien base deep below ground. But the most chilling story came from best-selling horror novelist Whitley Strieber. He had purchased a cabin in the western extreme edge of the Hudson Valley and had an experience that would change his life forever. He woke up in the middle of the night to find his room filled with strange figures, with big black eyes and dark blue short figures. They spoke to him and he screamed. The next morning, he had no memory of what had happened, but his life was never the same. Imbrogno's investigation continued for years, and the reports continued to pour in. The sightings in the Hudson Valley Hot Spot were so convincing and so frightening that people who would not normally come forward to report a UFO sighting did so. It was clear that something was going on in the area, something that was not of this world. The sightings eventually stopped, but the memories of that New Year's Eve in 1982 lingered on. People still talk about what they saw, and the town of Kent Cliffs is now known as one of the most famous UFO hotspots in the world. As for Richard, the mechanic who first saw the craft, he never forgot what he had seen. He would tell his story to anyone who would listen, and it became a part of his life's work. He was convinced that there was more to the universe than what we can see, and that we are not alone. The image of the V-shaped craft remains etched in the minds of those who saw it, a lasting reminder that we are not alone in the universe and that there is still so much that we have yet to discover.